thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, November 13th. Today, it's just got one thing today for you guys. It's National Indian Pudding Day.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Indian pudding?
Yep.
Like from India?
Oh, you guys are going to make me go and look this up now, huh? Okay, all right. Hold on a second.
He wasn't prepared, Sean.
Hold on a second.
I had a question.
I didn't think you guys were going to... I didn't think you guys were going to be that concerned with it. I thought, you know what I'm saying? I didn't realize that it was going to trigger you guys.
We want to make sure we're ethnically correct here now,
okay.
Jason.
All right. Stand by. Give me 1 second. So, let's see. Let's see, you guys. Here we go. Indian Pudding Day. It doesn't look that good. National Indian Pudding Day recognizes a cold weather classic on November 13th each year. Serve up this traditional New England dessert that's sure to wow. In the 17th century, English colonists brought hashti pudding to North America, transforming it. Although they initially made the pudding with wheat due to a shortage of grain, the colonists eventually used cornmeal. Since the colonists had learned to cultivate maize, which is known as corn, from the indigenous peoples, the crop was readily available. The colonists derived the name of Indian pudding from their name for cornmeal, Indian meal. They also replaced the water with milk for added flavor. Cooks with either molasses. Oh, damn it. Why did you just do that? Cooks with either molasses or maple syrup. Other ingredients they add include cinnamon, ground ginger, butter, eggs, raisins, and, of course, liberals, because they add nuts.
Why not just call it like New England porridge? I don't
understand why you guys. I don't understand why you guys always think that I make these days up. I just don't understand why you guys want to hold me responsible.
I don't think you make them up, but I do think it's whack that they named that dish.
Just saying, you guys. Don't shoot the messenger, okay?
You're the captain of the ship. You're responsible for everything. Don't worry. There'll be plenty of more things that you guys want to shoot me for throughout the course of this show today. I can guarantee that. That's our job.
Yes. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And man, you guys, So, Senators McConnell and Senators Rand Paul feud over hemp regulations threatening Kentucky
industry, you guys. And this is from a publication in Kentucky. This is why I'm reading it, because I thought it was very timely. It makes a lot of sense. And let's get into it. Kentucky's 2 Republican senators are at war over a provision that some say could destroy the state's hemp industry. Senator Mitch McConnell slipped language into the government's funding bill that would ban hemp products with more than 0.4 milligrams of THC per container, claiming kids are at risk of consuming intoxicating THC products. And a quote, "Unfortunately, we weren't surprised because this whole discussion has moved from protecting the kids now to protect Senator McConnell's vanity project, which is his legacy," said Justin Swanson, who is with the Kentucky Hemp Association. "Companies have exploited a loophole in the 2018 legislation by taking legal amounts of THC from hemp and turning it into intoxicating substances," said Republican Senator Marijuana Mitch McConnell. However, Kentucky's Republican junior Senator Rand Paul says that the limit is so low it would eliminate 100% of the hemp products in the country. Paul tried to strip the hemp language from the spending bill, but failed. And in a quote, "The bill before us nullifies all these state laws and makes the hemp industry kaput," explains Paul. "This is the most thoughtless and ignorant proposal to an industry that I've seen in a long time. You know, it's a $28 billion market across the country and employs almost 350,000 people. So the time when costs are skyrocketing, when health is skyrocketing," admits Swanson. "To take away a choice from people who use these products to improve their quality of life is really annoying." Swanson stresses that dozens of farmers have harvested crops this year that now could go to waste. The Senate voted 76-24 to block Paul's amendment, and Kentucky has already passed its own hemp regulations this year, allowing 12 times more THC than the new federal limit. And in a quote, "It's a giant step backwards for the cannabis reform movement in general, especially when you understand what was removed from the bill, which was allowing the VA to recommend cannabis to veterans," said Swanson. "That passed both the House and Senate, and then the day before Veterans Day, it's gone." Cornbread Hemp, one of several businesses that could lose everything, released a statement on Facebook and says, "We have immense gratitude for Senator Rand Paul and his efforts to block McConnell's hemp ban. While he was joined by Democrats and at least one other Republican, we did not have the support to overcome McConnell and the bourbon industry. Now that it has gone to the House, we encourage Republicans who believe in states' rights and personal freedom to join the opposition to the minibus appropriations bill unless the prohibition on hemp products is removed. We also encourage Democrats to tell leadership their vote to reopen government is conditional on the removal if this farm killing language. If this becomes law, which it actually has become law, it will set a 365-day clock before it destroys the hemp industry. During this one-year window, we can pass a bill to protect the hemp industry and the millions of consumers who have come to depend on them. We need everyone to come together in the next 365 days to ensure that full-spectrum CBD products and low-dose THC beverages do not become Schedule I narcotics, as designed by Marijuana Mitch McConnell and the bourbon industry." Cornbread Hemp Facebook, they say, "I think there's a really big sense of betrayal here, especially the way it was done. If this was such a good policy, let's do it out in the open. Let's have a standalone bill and let's debate it," said Swanson. The continuing resolution passed the Senate and could become law this week. If it does, the hemp industry has 1 year before the new rules take effect, and Kentucky Congressman Brett Guthrie now chairs the House committee that would block the provision next year, you guys. Well, I guess that's good news overall for hemp. But right now, people are singing a sad, sad tale, and it sounds like they're going to be having is some bluegrass today. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I think it's comical that the Republicans are having this pissing match out in the open.
I do too.
It'll bring a little more attention to the problem that we're facing.
Yeah.
That American people are voting with their pocketbook. They want these products.
Mm-hmm.
They're buying them. They want them safer. They want them out of the hands of kids. We've got these 2 old curmudgeons out of Kentucky fighting over, the bourbon industry is clearly the tail wagging the dog here. They're bringing it up. They understand that behind all this is big business that knows it's going to lose money. And so they do sneaky backroom deals like this.
Mm-hmm.
I want it out in the open. I'd like Congress to take a look at this plant globally and redefine what is hemp and then what is cannabis that we're going to look at as an intoxicating product. And let's see if we can fashion something here that makes sense and keeps the industry moving forward.
You mean like a old fashioned, Dale? Like an old fashioned?
Like a what?
Like an old fashioned.
You mean a drink?
Yeah. You know, you're saying fashion. You know what I'm saying? I was saying like an old fashioned. You know what I mean? We're talking about the bourbon industry. I just thought, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. Whatever, Dale. Whatever, Dale.
I think you're going to see a lot more of this, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a lot more of this. And to Rand Paul, thank you so much. Thank you. And also to the other legislator, good job on those numbers. It means that they're reading the materials we're sending them. It means that they're actually taking this seriously, and they're able to say those numbers on their own now. And they're starting to understand the market that lives within this amazing American built industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Kentucky in particular, I think what I'm really excited about, for anyone who's panicking, why is Shaun in a good mood still, regardless? Because I am just 10 times more fired up about this. I think we're actually really close to the other side of prohibition, and this might be one of the ugly steps towards that. But I don't think this is actually going to pull all the way through into fiscal year 27.
I don't
and I'll
either.
break down why.
I don't either. I'm with you, Shaun. I'm with you on that.
I'll break down why, but here's what I'm noticing. We're going to go into this when I talk about why Ted Cruz voted the way he did, because I did my job. But the red Republican states have an open hemp market now that we know is worth $28 billion. And we have blue Democrat states that have gone with limited licensing, state-run marijuana programs. And it's all cannabis, right? No hemp versus marijuana from me, because I work in all spaces. I think what we're going to see potentially unfold over the next year is a new wave of Republicans who are going to want to own this issue, because local campaigns, we're getting calls on the THC side and hemp side here in Texas. Candidates want endorsements from both sides of the aisle. And they are realizing, to Dale's point, this is a kitchen table issue in red states where they don't have access to adult use marijuana or medical marijuana programs. Or in the example of Texas, we had 3 operators in medical marijuana, only 1 actually moving forward with product. I won't comment on the quality of it, but the other 2 not really participating. And folks have to drive, 8 hours to get to Austin, because those operators only wanted to operate in a major city. They didn't think about everybody in the state. So you got all these constituents and consumers and patients and veterans and American farmers and mom and pops who help build this industry in your red states. And then you got everybody on the marijuana side who, I love you guys, but you got to let go of those golden handcuffs. You got to let them go.
Well,
you have Stockholm syndrome. I think you're going to see Republicans make this their issue. And I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, President Trump did sign it last night. I wouldn't be surprised. He likes to change winds. Guys, he goes with the flow sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bigger play for
there's a much
else
bigger play. There is a much bigger play at play. You are 100% right. But I did see an interesting post from my buddy Douglas, who founded Chalice originally. He says, "Let's keep it 100. THCA loophole was complete bullshit the whole time. It drastically affected the success of the legal cannabis industry. Hot hemp is just weed, dude. Get real. A smoke shop is a smoke shop, not a dispensary. A gas station is not a dispensary. And just have some balls and sell the weed illegally like people always did. To everyone complaining about selling seeds and clones now, grow some nuts and sell that shit anyway." I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's surprisingly profound right there. I haven't heard, usually he's such a mild-mannered dude right there. He doesn't always do the tell it like it is kind of approach. So, go Mr. Drake up. He's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he captures it perfectly. This won't save marijuana. This will only create a wider gap for the trap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's absolutely right.
You remember back in the late 1990s when our Republican Attorney General Dan Lundgren was just being an asshole every place he could about weed, and he couldn't stop it. Okay. And I would like to see the Republicans recognize the more you try to stop this, more headwinds you're going to face. I think Rand Paul's exactly right. This industry's up and running. You guys had your thumbs up your ass, and we're fighting about stuff that the voters said, we want this. It's going to stay here. And if you take it away from us, you better be careful about next year's election. Because people right now, that big group in the middle, and I think the figure's 43%, are looking at all this going, why in the hell are you guys doing this? Mm-hmm. Okay, how come we can't sit down with people who know how to describe it scientifically, come up with the appropriate terms, and then stop thinking like this is, depleted uranium, mm-hmm. and, we can't talk about it and kids can't think about it. Stop all that bullshit. What they figured out, no kid died when they were selling shit in the local stop and rob. Nobody died. And why do we have to keep thinking like, oh, the sky's going to fall if we do this? When can we get to a point where realistic people sit down and talk honestly like you would with any industry and take steps, make it easier for the industry to move forward? And this is just going to throw a big turd in the punch bowl right mm-hmm. now. They're going to have to talk about this. McConnell's on his way out, but Rand Paul's not.
No.
Next wave of politicians are going to have to address this somehow, because it's an 800-pound gorilla in your goddamn living room. What are you going to do? Pretend like it's not there?
And, to your point, Dale, Hawaii Sustainable just threw in the chat. He said, I rewatched Homegrown last night to get pumped for outlaw growing again. In all fairness, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen Homegrown, you should definitely watch that. It's definitely a classic. It's got John Bon Jovi in it, and it's a pretty good flick.
But Jason, that's the problem they got. Mm-hmm. It all came from the industry when we knew we were breaking the law. We got caught. We're going to get our ass kicked.
Yep.
And we did it anyway.
Yep.
Okay. And as soon as they went after outdoor grows, everybody went indoor. Mm-hmm. So let me just tell you, you can push on one part of the industry, it's going to pop out someplace else. How about we realize no one's died from this? It's much safer than alcohol. Can we stop the hysteria mm-hmm. and work out a way, get this industry up and running with federal regulations that allow it to go, and allow the states to work this out? I mean, this is ridiculous.
What were you going to say, Shaun? And then we're going to roll into commercial.
Well, two things. If it all goes back to the trap, I'm looking forward to quality improving, because you actually have open market competition. So you will have to get better at what you do. And then the other thing is, I really don't understand why people are so committed to the dispensary model. Why are you mad that it's in your gas station, in your grocery stores, anywhere that you can buy any other over-the-counter product? I don't get it. This would give the really good dispensaries an opportunity to, an open market gives the dispensaries that really are good at being a dispensary and a tourist location a chance to thrive, and everyone else can retail in a normal way, and they can expand what they can retail. Because if you're only selling cannabis products in 10 years, when we do have open markets, you're probably not going to survive unless you've got something really niche, super branded going on.
If you think we're going to have open markets in 10 years, that's I find that cute. And we're going to go to commercial, and we're going to be right back.
We already have open markets through hemp.
We do. It's just behind closed doors, Shaun.
Disappointing.
Oh, and we are back. And speaking of disappointment, Shaun, I have one more story for you guys. A similar tale, because a $28 billion industry is outlawed as Congress passes a hemp THC ban. You guys, that's right. The federal government is opening back up, and the hemp-derived THC will become criminal contraband, you guys. The spending package approved by the Republican-controlled House and Representative late last night to end the longest government shutdown in history also includes language that will outlaw nearly all the estimated 28.3 billion with a B dollars U.S. hemp industry advocates say. Wednesday's vote is the culmination of a months-long effort by Washington lawmakers to close the so-called loophole, which is total bullshit language in my opinion, but created by the 2018 Farm Bill that's seen intoxicating hemp-derived THC products proliferate across the U.S. Regulated cannabis companies who view hemp as an unwelcome competitor, playing by different rules, as well as alcohol lobbies and staunch anti-legalization advocates supported the ban. The vote closes the hemp loophole that has resulted in the spread of unregulated intoxicating hemp-derived products that are being sold online and in gas stations and corner stores across the country, said Republican U.S. Representative Andy Harris of Maryland. The chief sponsor of the ban to the ban language in the House. 2 Republicans voted to save hemp-derived THC, though. Then that's right, 2 Republicans joined, but all 6 Democrats in opposing the funding bill that included the hemp THC ban. Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie and Florida Representative Greg Steube, according to the House clerk. In a quote, "I detest the tactics that are being used to try to get this ban enacted into law," Massey told Kentucky Public Radio prior to the vote. The ban goes into effect 365 days after the spending bill is signed by President Donald J. Trump. Trump supports the hemp restrictions, and unnamed White House official told NBC News earlier this week, "I'm not buying all that one. Stop it. You guys are gaslighting people with that line." But whatever. Hemp THC ban will disrupt businesses for marijuana MSOs and the mainstream, and the ban leaves tens of thousands of hemp businesses across the country, including those in states like Kentucky that regulate hemp THC, stranded in uncertain waters at best. It may disrupt business plans for marijuana multi-state operators like Curaleaf Holdings, which has a hemp-derived product and retail line, as well as mainstream retailers like Circle K and Total Wine and Spirits that carry hemp-derived beverages. They forgot to include Target. A spokesperson for Curaleaf did not comment to MJ Biz Daily about the ban's effect on the company, and some businesses are already dealing with canceled orders or other uncertainty, though most are plowing ahead with their 2026 operating plans as is, operators told MJ Biz Daily. But the year-long pause does give hemp advocates 365 days until the hemp products, including CBD oils, become Schedule I narcotics, said Jim Hagedorn, the co-founder and chief communications officer at Kentucky-based Cornbread Hemp. To stop this insane outcome, we must pass a bill through the House Energy and Commerce Committee immediately, he added. Our farming partners require certainty to plan next year's crop. Without such a compromise, he added, all hope for a future of rational cannabis laws in the country will vanish. But closer to 2018, the Farm Bill loophole for THCA and synthesized synthetics like THCP, as in Paul. Hemp is now redefined as the plant of cannabis, sativa L, and all derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids with a total tetrahydrocannabinoids concentration, including tetrahydrocannabolic acid, of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. That would close the THCA loophole that some merchants use to sell THCA flower online and outside of state-regulated marijuana channels. The nationwide THCA flower market by itself is worth hundreds of millions of dollars annually, according to one estimate. It also excludes from the definition of hemp cannabinoids that A, are not capable of being naturally produced by the cannabis plant, which would include HHC, and W, where synthesized or manufactured outside the plant, which would include THCP, as in Paul. In states such as Texas, with limited medical cannabis programs, Shaun, and no adult use, the ban leaves the illicit market as the only channel to acquire THC products, critics say. And a quote, the bill passed tonight carefully distinguishes between intoxicating and non-intoxicating products and synthetic and natural products, said Chris Lindsay, VP of Policy and State Advocacy at the American Trade Association for Cannabis and Hemp, which supported the ban. You guys. That's right. Let me say their name again. At the American Trade Association for Cannabis and Hemp, which supported the ban. Okay? Just make sure you make a note of that. The intoxicating hemp market is rife with bad actors peddling synthetic drugs and cannabis under the guise of hemp, often without sufficient age gating. He added, under the bill passed tonight, intoxicating hemp products would be legally equivalent to cannabis. And we look forward to working with policymakers to develop a unified framework for natural hemp and cannabis products. This guy sounds like his Project Sam 2.0. Efforts to save hemp THC failed on Capitol Hill, and hemp's fate seemed sealed on Monday when a last-ditch effort. Now, we kind of covered that already in the previous story, but that's kind of the wrap on this one, you guys. I can't wait to hear what. Oh, hold on, there is a quote from Rod Kite, who is a big-time lawyer in the hemp space. He says, this will create some opportunities in hemp-friendly states while also sowing chaos and lots of legal gray area that will be difficult to enforce, said Rod Kite, a North Carolina-based attorney and expert in hemp law. Unfortunately, it will also exacerbate the problems that the marijuana industry is currently facing, such as in the areas of taxation, banking, merchant processing, interstate commerce, and lack of access to capital markets. Well, you're so right about that, Rod. And I can't wait to hear what you guys all have to say about this.
You know, I like to point out one thing that you sort of just side noted as you were reading through, where you mentioned the word loophole. Well, you mentioned the word loophole, and you said, I don't really agree with that. You know, as a kind of a personal comment bullshit on that. No, I don't personally either. I mean, I even sent you a text message essentially on the very idea, like early this morning, where this wasn't a loophole. This was a crappily written law.
No, it wasn't. And that was perfectly written.
I mean, it literally contradicts itself. And when you look at one section, it supports the hemp industry. And when you look at another section, it doesn't. And now what happened is, and granted, this is many, many years down the line where, you know, literally the economy is now tied into this industry, and this is happening. And now we are dealing with the fallout of all of this kind of stuff. It's still the reality that it's a miswritten, it is not a clear distinction of law that the hemp industry should have ever existed. In fact, it's very clear that it shouldn't when you read through everything. And a lot of people are seeing this here given. Well, I mean, THCA and Delta-9 have always been intended to be combined together. And it even states so in the original Farm Bill, total THC, and it even goes on a distinction of THCA, and it even goes further as to reduce the amount of THCA through a calculation similar to what they use in other states, where you reduce the amount of THCA by 12.3% before you calculate it as part of the total THC. They said all of this. And in another section, they defined THC as Delta-9. Now, that's really screwy, and that's just a badly written law.
I don't think it's badly written. I think it was perfectly written, Nate.
Here's the deal. The thing is, that was one section of the law, and then there were so many other sections in conflict. It was not enforceable. It was
a perfectly written bill. It was a perfectly written bill.
I know. I am actually not I'm not saying anything about your commentary. I think it's astute, actually. Although I wonder on THCA, because it's a non-psychoactive acid, and what the consumer chooses to do with that plant material, what they choose to do is none of my business.
I agree with that. As a scientist, I got to say that I think the whole thing is absolutely silly that they even make it reduce in the first place, but it does suggest that they were aware of the presence of THCA and of decarboxylation. And it's clear that if you're aware of those things, you're aware that that's what leads to getting high. So,
but that's and I agree with you. This is what you see, what's written, and that's typically what the public gets to see. Then you have the behind the scenes conversations, because we had similar legislation here in Texas, and they tried to play the same argument. Like, Mitch McConnell's script is identical to Charles Perry's. That's why what happened on the federal level isn't glitching me out. We just went through it in Texas, and we won.
Oh, she has PTSD. Look at that. Look at that. You just look at that. You're toughening up, Sean. I love this.
I've been through this round before.
Yes, I know how this movie ends, right?
So what we have here was never a loophole, and we kept saying that. These are legal definitions, and you have whole firms of attorneys who agree with this. The other thing is, while they did write that intent, you're right. They write very bad laws when they don't know exactly what they're doing, and they have no expertise in a specific field, and they did that. And it meant Mitch McConnell essentially legalized cannabis.
He did. That's why he's Marijuana Mitch. He'll be ever known as Marijuana Mitch in my book.
be his legacy. And Dan Patrick kind of committed to the same song, and now he's a meme in Texas. Like, okay, gentlemen, that's fine. So the House and the Senate gave him a bone because he's on his way out. I don't see this getting funded for fiscal year 27. And then I want to bring Dale in on this to chime in because he's worked with lobbyists, legislators, and he's an attorney as well. What they say in the law is not nearly what they are saying in your closed door conversations, in email traffic, in other documents that are definitely available for the record. And that's why sometimes I do think the ambiguity was intentional because they wanted to see what could work. Yeah. And it was also
exactly
for American farmers. It was about the farmers.
You're so right about that, Shaun.
Dale, please.
I would just argue then to that if that was allowable in their mind, that ambiguity was deliberate. I mean, what an ish show, like that's not. I guess what I'm saying is I would have done it differently. You know what I mean? I would have done research and studied and spoken to experts.
We just did the research though, Nate. It was a few years program, 2018 to now. That was the research program, Nate. That was it.
I can tell you I would have caught that as an editor, and I'm not a professional editor.
If you look at red open hemp markets and you compare them to blue, typically Democrat limited licensing markets, which have like made headlines about really just flop after flop with every rule. You can, whether you realized you were doing it smartly or not, you did, and now you need to look at the data. But also, I want to just wrap my arms around you because cannabis is why do I love this industry so much. Because I saw as a veteran that it shows us as Americans in a very microcosmic way patterns of bad behaviors and leadership and execution that we had. Like if I was looking at us as a business entity, cannabis is our most experimental, innovative, and probably money forward avenue. And all the mistakes we're making here on this small level, when you blow it up, look at AI, anything else, how they're regulating things, they are I'm like going to start stuttering. They're continuously not the experts in the room. And I really hope as a government, we can start to lean into those people more and build more of a coalition with the people. But Dale, I really do want to hear
Lead
Dale.
for the people.
Tell us how to
Lead for the people.
Let me just point out, Jason likes to use these absolutes and superlatives. It's a perfect bill. It's not even a good bill. If this had been a good bill, we wouldn't be where we are right now going, how in the fuck can they pull the rug out from underneath like this?
They didn't pull the rug yet. They haven't pulled the rug yet.
We have, okay.
We have a year.
They're on the way to the rug being pulled. And we're going to have the discussions now with people who are in legitimate industries because hemp became a legitimate industry.
This timeline sets it up perfectly for cannabis legalization to be the October surprise next year before the midterms. This is perfect. This is a perfect setup right here.
Why wasn't it used as a Trojan horse then to just make cannabis legal? Like they were so good. It's like it's like hearing somebody who's so close to the truth, but they're, so set in their ways, they can't hear it, because they're, obviously right up against the wall there. It almost looks like that. This feels like a pretty swift step backwards because this could have, as somebody who's long-term in the industry and seen how this has gone, I could have seen how this would have Trojan horsed its way to legalization. Instead, Nate, you're suggesting a reversal and then back forward?
Nate,
that doesn't sound
sometimes
normal.
You got to take 2 steps back to take 5 steps forward. But Brian Dombrowski sent us a big old super chat in the comments. He says, "Stop the nonsense, you guys. I have a consumable hemp product license in Texas, not the intent. My ass," as in dollar signs.
It was definitely their intent. Thank you, Charles.
Exactly.
Thank you.
100% it was their intent. 100% it was their intent. I'm not buying any of that for a second. All that poppycock.
In that case, then I raise you one more. Then,
here we go.
Shaun, you first.
I also have to ask, like, I hear you. I get like predictive markets, if you guys saw that South Park episode, but like and future casting, especially if you have a lot of experience in a space. Here's what I think sometimes though, especially for operators in states like you guys, I have a lot of love for California. A lot of my people are out there in California. I'm here, Shaun.
I'm here, Shaun.
Jason's out there.
Dale's here.
You know, and how can you know the reality of your situation when you're trapped in it and you haven't visited any of the other markets or hemp markets to see for yourself on the ground what's going on? If you did, you saw this developing 2018, 2019, and then the pandemic, it went insane. Like, it was declared for cannabis, THC, that it was an essential good. That applied here in Texas, and hemp operators were operating. Like, come on, guys. Come on. You got to get out of the bubble a little bit. I know that it wasn't something easily predicted, but it doesn't mean that it's not a pattern of human behavior that could lead to this, and it did, especially with the arrogance that so many legislators have when they write these things. Like, you could just slip language in. Sometimes they don't always check the dots. Like, they don't always do their due diligence. That's why people like me, who they train to do this shit for them, are so happy to work for the people now. Like, because you guys actually care, because it affects you. And I'm going to get off my soapbox.
All right.
It affects you. That's why you care.
Let Nate and Dale chime in, and then that way we'll go to the next story. Go for it, you guys.
I just wanted to point out a quick distinction then, because I agree with everything we're saying. We're hitting this singularity of reason at this point in this conversation. And, you know, there's nothing false being said. But I just want to throw out one more idea, which is, let's create a distinction. The people who set this bill into place, however deliberate, I'll take for face value, however deliberate every last word was, versus the people snapping it back right now, and how the left hand isn't talking to the right, and how everybody in between those 2 points got absolutely shoveled. Again, like, this is something that is now intrinsically connected to the economy. And this is what left hand not talking to the right, as deliberate as each, you know, bookend might be in your point, this is not a smooth transition. This is not how you do things. This is not an example of how this type of thing should have been rolled out or should be resulted in. And we, the people, are left with the bill. And I don't think there's any escaping that. And I just need to point out, like, how bad somebody ished to the bed, and it's our bed. And please continue. I'll
go for it, Dale. Go for it, Dale. Last word, Dale.
Well, okay, I've been doing this long enough to see a pattern. And when Prop 215 passed, the federal government did all sorts of things, and the industry was cut loose. They couldn't stop it at that point. And there's been just trying to catch up with the realities of what human beings are doing with this plant has been the mantra since I got involved in this over a quarter of a century ago. And I see that happening now. There's an industry up and running. Rand Paul recognizes it. He's not going to go away. There are other people in both parties who recognize we have to deal with this straight up. And there's still the underlying tensions from a 55-year-old war on this plant through the Controlled Substances Act. And that's going to be the more difficult one to figure out, because the DEA, if they wanted this to happen, it would have happened a long time ago. They don't want this to happen. Internally, there's still a lot of headwinds you're facing to get this done. I just hope we can have an honest discussion where we send all the kids out of the room, all the snowflakes, get the fuck out of here. Let's talk honestly about what's going on here, what people want, how can we enact some regulations that are reasonable for safety, things like that. Let's move forward. Now, am I going to hold my breath it's going to happen? No, I would have died a long time ago holding my breath for the government to get something right over this. I don't see them doing it here. But, you know, it's another phase and moving this plant forward from the ridiculous position it was in, where we went to prison for touching it, to, you know, let's maybe not take it out of the local Arco station on the corner. Let people have their products. I mean, stop this stuff. It's not hurting anybody. And they can't bring forth any statistic to show this is hurting people. So just sit down, shut the fuck up, and let's have an honest discussion about this. But, you know, I've been saying that for a quarter of a century, and Like I said, I'm not going to hold my breath here.
Well. Like I said, you guys, it just may be the October surprise next year. It's going to be right in time for the holidays. You know what I mean? Right in time for lots of things. Right in time for the midterms in November. And it just so happens that this timeline of 365 days from today happens to match perfectly within that. So you guys need to stop losing all your marbles and just, stay level-headed on that. We're going to roll right into Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, and they turn your teeth yellow and other things yellow. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinion, and anyone else whoever wants to identify his opinion. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, it's your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco, and once again, the aim is full of shiticus. We're here to talk about something that Jason and I had a little pissing match about last week.
Yeah.
He's and Bondi can just deschedule marijuana, and I disagreed with that. So we had a little pissing match, and I decided, okay, I'm going to prepare something to be able to talk about here, and it outlines what we call the de jure part, or the legal part of descheduling marijuana, taking it out of the Controlled Substances Act. Jason shot me the statute, 21 U.S.C. 811, which has the procedures to change the scheduling of cannabis, as the federal government uses that term. And it has delegated that to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, but she has delegated that to the DEA. And so we have some actors here we got to talk about. Robert Kennedy Jr. is Department of HHS Secretary. Terry Cole is he's the DEA administrator, and of course we know Pam Bondi. And so the steps are not, I'm just going to sign a piece of paper and we deschedule cannabis. It doesn't work like that. Congress can do that. The Attorney General can't. Since it's delegated to Terry Cole, he's the person who would logically start the process. It's a process of gathering facts, which is fact-driven. And then Bobby Kennedy will have to produce the evidence about what is this substance, and there's criteria that I spell out in the memorandum here that you have to look at, and he produces a scientific memorandum, which is then binding. And see, this is one of the things we fought, going back with the Chevron doctrine. Stop having these supposed experts in these agencies have binding opinions. Let's open it up. But this one's got that language. Bobby Kennedy produces these documents. Now we start moving forward, and that's where it starts to get complicated. Now, my considered opinion is that this is not just possible to do. It takes time, and along the way, the DEA has to cooperate, and you have the ability to appeal this. Okay? And what I've outlined here is what we call in the law the de jure. This is the legal stuff. The other part of this that I think we all recognize from the rescheduling attempt from the Biden administration, de facto on the ground is the DEA is the tail wagging the dog here. Okay? They put the kibosh on Schedule 3 change. It's sitting there, it's going nowhere. And so the idea that someone in the administration is just going to sign a piece of paper and we're going to take marijuana out of schedule completely, just not possible to do. It would suffer legal challenges along the way. And from where I've been sitting for the last 50 plus years now, DEA is not interested in doing this. And as long as the administration has put somebody in who's going to follow what they're told from top to bottom, we're going to have these internal struggles here about what the DEA's role is. Because we haven't gotten anywhere with the Biden attempt. My prediction would be from the de facto standpoint, DEA would trip this up every chance they get. That's their history. Okay. And another bigger overriding and concern I have here, I mentioned it yesterday, is that it looks like the drug war is being geared up again. Okay. It's being targeted right now at cocaine. Fentanyl's a target. I would like to see marijuana, cannabis taken out of the drug war. And we please do that so that we don't get sucked back into, let's lock them up and we'll figure out the consequences later, or perhaps blow a boat up. I can remember when they sprayed paraquat on marijuana in Mexico because they were going to fight. This is not the first time we've seen nonsensical shit happen with drugs. But we had to be concerned about paraquat being in our imported Mexican weed back in the 70s and 80s. This is not a brand new phenomenon. But I think my point is that, Jason, not to be too hard on you, you like absolutes. Oh, she can just do it. The answer is no, she can't.
She can do it.
The president can't sign an executive order to change this. It has no legal effect. And what we're watching right now in the courts is that they're taking steps to block these executive types of pushes to go around the regulatory process. And then you've got to deal with the Administrative Procedures Act, which is something that I don't have enough hair left to keep pulling my hair out with these son of a bitches, because they will drag you through every knothole they can in the rulemaking process. It's very frustrating. Oh, my retort now is that, sure, there's a process to do it. Do I think it's likely? No. I think the Congress is going to have to step up and erase this out of the Controlled Substances Act. Take a look at the entire government laws over this at the federal level and erase marijuana out. Make sure that if you got to ask ChatGPT to look for it because you're fucking too stupid to find it yourself, please do that. Every place you find marijuana in the law, identify it, take it out.
Mm-hmm.
Turn into a new regulatory scheme where all of those compounds are treated more like alcohol at the federal level. Grab a tax, get some regulations, get out of the way and let the states do this. But I'm going to throw this back at you because we're going to watch this process you talked about, and then we're going to watch the process of whether the Congress can address this directly. Okay, address the potential loopholes, if you want to call them that.
Such a bad word.
So we can move it out of this, treat it more like alcohol. Please, I'm going to throw this back at you guys for your discussion, because I know you all have a few things to say about this, right, Jason?
I do, Dale. So it seems as though how you stated it, you stated that I was right, but she had previously deflected that power to the DEA.
She didn't deflect it. It was delegated officially.
Delegated.
The DEA.
Yeah, exactly. So she can't do it. So she can't do it. She can redelegate.
Well, no, that's a rule-making change.
I understand that. But my point is it's a reality that it could happen. That's all that I'm saying. It's a reality that that could happen. That's my point.
Dale,
okay.
To your point about the bureaucracy and the process and how many, this is going to have to go through so many iterations.
Mm-hmm.
That is also kind of what has me a little bit I'm not worried about hemp as much, because now the FDA has an assignment and they're probably not going to meet their deadline. And there's going to be a number of other things that pop up over the next year, and conflicts and ways to get this shit done that they're not going to meet. And then they have to fund it. So yes, Dale, thank you for this very sound observation and analysis, because I think it's also going to be, it's like the sword they keep falling on. It's going to be the thing that also helps us in the end. That's why if you organize, though, we also hemp, cannabis, hemp, marijuana, it's all cannabis. It's all one plant. It's all brought ourselves together. I really do believe that our people are way more organized than they could ever be. And if we could just get our shit together and come to some agreements and go forward united, we could probably get something across the board, because campaign season is real and this movement can very much be a grassroots movement. I have been amazed by how much it was. Hundreds of thousands of letters and voters that will show up at the polls, and they're starting to register that. I bet you if we could come together and get this figured out, with or without MSO support, we could do something really amazing. And there are plenty of MSOs in hemp who are really just as powerful and could help us figure this out. Let's come together, friends. Because Dale's right. The likelihood that Pam Bondi deschedules is very slim.
I agree with that. I agree with that. My point was that is not whether or not the likelihood is in the high case of probabilities. My point is just that she possesses the ability to do that. That's all that I was saying. That's all.
I think if we could develop actually sound hemp regulations and then fold THC into that, we would get to where we want to go under a different label. And I really worry about pushing for a full deschedule, because they will always push back on that and they'll counter with reschedule. And what I think could possibly, like, I don't want this to be the idea people propose, is low dose hemp and then everything else rescheduled, because most of your operators will be out. That will be medical marijuana, high dose, low dose hemp. I think just if we can figure this hemp thing out and deal with some real regulations, then we can have a healthy market. We have healthy markets right now to the tune of 28 billion. Like, I had someone in California. You guys tell me if this number is right, because I don't know the number off the top of my head, but someone out in California was lecturing me on hemp and was like, we have a $4 billion market, sweetheart. And I was like, that's cute. We have on conservative estimates an $8 billion market in Texas, and on more
but everything's bigger
estimates,
in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, Shaun. Everything's bigger.
Why would you be so excited about having less than half? Like, what? Why?
Well, at the same time, most people in California aren't purchasing those types of products overall. So the fact that it's $4 billion is a significant dent. I mean, most people buy stuff from the trap, which is an unquantified amount in California, and then you have a whole other portion that's buying stuff through the regulated system, which is a whole nother quantifiable portion. And if you were to actually add those three together, we would totally squash Texas.
Okay. That's fair.
All right.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
But why would you want $4 billion? Why would you only want half of a market share?
And shout out to the C word, who just threw in a big old super chat, who says, take away licenses from people who grow mids. And I think that what the whole compliance should be all about right there. Take away the licenses from people that grow mids. Subpar growers. Just yank them. Get them out of here.
Yeah. Right. My concern is that there's too many other things ready to suck a lot of oxygen out of the room. From Epstein to this ex post facto, giving these senators the ability to go sue for $500,000 for. I mean, I'm watching this stuff roll out, and it's like, okay, we have been the redheaded stepchildren getting shit done since I turned an adult, 50 something years ago. I don't see it happening right now, but I think that it's put on the table. We've never had this point before where it's like you pull the rug out from hemp. You got 1 year to figure this stuff out. You've got all these issues out there that revolve around this plant. And we actually talk about it in the open, or we're going to have backroom deals still come out and screw people from one side or the other. And we actually do it and get above the other noise out there it's already gotten started. And I tell people all the time, this is not the biggest issue facing the country, but it's a big issue for us, and it's an important part of the economy. Rand Paul recognized it, and at some point we're going to thank him for continuing to push the industry. Now they have money. Hemp industry has lobbying money to go to Congress and say, look, dude, you can't pull the rug out from underneath us. We're not going to stand by, because the cannabis industry is still struggling to find enough money to find their own ass.
But Dale,
right now.
but Dale, we were talking about this yesterday, and the problem is the cannabis industry isn't united as far as what they need done. You have the hemp side saying one thing. You have the regulated marketplace like Trulieve and others saying hemp needs to be outlawed and banned, and it's cutting into our market shares and this and that and stuff like that. And so you have two sides of the plant talking out of both sides of their ass. And so until there's a unified front, lawmakers don't know what to do, and that's what creates these types of political obstacles that people are experiencing right now in reality.
Well, and we need to have the hemp industry and the cannabis industry actually come together, you know, shut the door, smoke a joint, eat a pizza, and talk about how you can work together. Because if we don't get this thing united, we don't have the bandwidth to really get to Congress and break through the other noise that's coming at us. And they've set these up to be competing interests. And it wasn't like somebody said, oh, we're going to intentionally do this. But as long as you give one group the right to make money legally, they're going to go do it. The other group is making a lot of money illegally. And the people in the regulated industry are hanging on by their fingernails right now. And they can't find the funds to even keep their industry going. How are they going to find the millions of dollars needed to fund the lobbying campaign here? It's very frustrating. I've been watching this my entire adult life. And how do we get them to come together and recognize that, hey, we may not be, you know, brothers in arms, but we better come together for this one, or we're not going to get shit done here. And I don't know that they're going to do it. I've been watching it and being hopeful for a long time, but I stopped holding my breath a long time ago, because if you give them a chance, they will have a war.
Also, too, Dale, if you hold your breath for too long, you'll just roll over and die.
Yeah, you will.
Just saying.
Yeah, I think they're going to start to feel that, though, when you hold your breath being stubborn, that same result. I really believe this is going to come, because here's the deal. We saw an organization spend $116 million in Florida to try to pass something that would significantly limit the market,
miserably.
right?
Fail miserably.
And it failed largely because of a grassroots movement. So and what's interesting, yes, there is some money in hemp. Definitely there's money, but also, and there's about to be a lot more, because the calls I've been getting, Target is probably not going to pull back. Circle K, probably not going to pull back. Like, I can't speak for them, but other big deals that are on the horizon, they're still running forward.
Yep.
And I think what we can do here is the MSOs don't control everything, even though it sometimes feels that way. The smaller and mid-sized operators significantly outnumber them. And if they could stop drinking the Kool-Aid that hemp is all this trash and start to realize that actually in red states, we are them 10 years ago, but we got a different path forward. That's it. It is our legacy operators who built this out here. We got to bring y'all around the corner, because I do not believe adding more restrictions creates business opportunity. And I do think that the other MSOs, once they start to see that regulatory capture doesn't actually lead to the maximum output for profitability,
you're never gonna get their minds off of that, because they are so hell-bent on regulatory capture as the model and the only way to win. And
you saw Curaleaf move into hemp. You saw other operators.
That's just called the diversification, Shaun. And that's just called the diversification. You know what I'm saying? To hedge, to cornerstone market share and build brand awareness. That's the only reason for that. Nate, you have anything you want to say on this before we move on?
Question to Shaun, just because I'm unfamiliar specifically with what's passes as hemp product that the average Joe would end up smoking or purchasing or consuming from Texas. In my experience especially with a lot of the cannabis that gets shipped from California and gets called THCA or hemp or whatever, however have you, usually I consider that to be flushing ground kind of stuff. I've literally witnessed this supply chain, and I've seen stuff that's failing just be simply sent out of state. So I have this very pessimistic view of what is to be considered THC and hemp. I consider it to be, again, flushing ground. Maybe not 100%. Maybe there's a few good operators in there. But now I'm wondering, because I have to be honest, this was a prejudice I've carried that all hemp was like this. But hearing you talk, and especially, not to say you're ubiquitously defending the industry or any decisions in it, but the fact that you see reason to have not gone about this, my concern remains that I don't mind hemp. I don't mind cannabis so long as it's appropriately regulated. People get what they think they're getting and that it's safe. Like you mentioned at gas stations, any other over-the-counter product is still subject to being visited by the health department and still able to be shut down if they have unsafe practices or if they're putting something in their products that, or let's usually if they're not putting something in their products that they say they are, or vice versa. It could work either way. But there's regulating bodies that exist for virtually every product except for hemp. I wouldn't mind a regulating body being added to this personally. No, that's why that was going to be my question. Is there more of a distinction in Texas where, let's say, are shop owners that responsible where they require safety COAs on everything before they'll allow it in their shop? That exists?
I wish Dombrowski could be on the call right now. We just had a chat with it. He has a distribution center that runs product. And we talk about batch IDs. We talk about full panel testing. We actually go above and beyond more often than not because we have been trying to prove ourselves for a number of years and have been doing a really good job of it. Yes, thank you for admitting that there are definitely marijuana operators out of California dropping trash product off the back of a truck and slapping a different COA on it. I get that.
People are buying it.
That does mean that all of that product maybe a few years ago might have moved the most, and it definitely that means that they are offsetting their costs of being in marijuana with the money they're making in hemp. Let's be real. On top of that,
but people don't like to look at the mirror when they're ugly, Shaun.
Doesn't mean that product will move forever. And the brands that are largely growing out here, like part of why I get so excited for y'all to hopefully end up in a space like where we are, instead of bringing us to a space of where you are, is because the opportunity to actually engage with your customers, to actually have a real conversation, to have that loyalty built between customer and brand is so much more real out here. And that's what they should be leaning on instead of these scarcity tactics, which can make you money in the first bit. Yes, selling bad product in a space where there is scarcity of product can make you money on the short term, but it will also build you a very ugly reputation, and people regionally will reject your shit. And I think that you're going to see that happen, especially because most of the brands that are thriving here, which are also operators in marijuana states, but they don't do back of the truck, they actually have separate build outs. They're supplying the hemp markets with good product because they realize there is a huge market opportunity out here, and it is not okay to treat your customers like shit and build yourself the shitty reputation of having trash product. It's not just something that cannabis connoisseurs know and the culture knows. It becomes word of mouth. And that's why you'll see regional mom and pop shops do really, really well next to MSO products where they are invested in multiple markets. And that's why, for me at least, it's worth defending that, because I really see it as the only avenue where everyone can coexist. And it is the only avenue where I'm seeing actual market development and consumer awareness and care. I'm not saying that operators in California that there aren't great operators. I know that there are. Like Nicole West raised me, and I know she would disagree with me on this too, and that's okay. But there are also really shitty operators out there, and you guys got to free yourselves from this mess. Free your minds. Come with us. Come to the light.
Oh boy. I will say this, Shaun, you are right on one thing, is the fact that we do need to focus on making the industry more like the hemp industry as opposed to the regulated market share. We need to, remove all the over taxation, all the over regulation and everything else like that, because it is hindering everyone's business, and we need to mirror more the hemp industry as opposed to the regulated industry. I do totally agree on that. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Trey. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months. I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me. We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created. Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees? All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
Yeah, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
And on that, we are back, and we are going to roll right in to Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a mom. She's a mitigator that can help try to keep your ass out court before you got to go and pay Dale all those big bills. And she is also a veteran who served her country proud. So I hope you had a great Veterans Day, Shaun. It is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Just getting punked out by Congress for
Veterans
Day.
That's right. That's how you know you're a veteran.
Here, let me. I know, right? That's how you know. Let me pull up the story real quick. My story is going to be on. I accidentally tried to click our story and I clicked our show. So let me pull it up. But it's going to be on Ted Cruz. I'm going to explain what happened.
I love Ted.
Explains from marijuana moment. Pulling it up. Sorry guys, I was just so into the conversation, I didn't realize I had the wrong link up. So, coming to you from Marijuana Moment by Kyle Yeager. Ted Cruz explains his vote to keep hemp THC products federally legal and historic first Senate roll call on cannabis. And what we're going to do here is we're going to read the story, and then after, I'm going to tell you what I learned and heard behind the scenes to an extent, so you can start to read between the lines when it comes to these stories, because I did journalism for a number of years, and sometimes they don't have all of the information that they need. Like I said, a lot of things happen behind the scenes, and then there are campaign politics that are also involved in this. They're always forecasting for their next move. So we're going to read the story, and then I'm going to help you break it down. As the Senate held in a historic, and we might roll through some of the stuff that we all know about, because this show has really been a lot about what just happened federally. So as the Senate held a first standalone roll call floor on the issue of cannabis on Monday, Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican from Texas, drew some attention as one of just 2 Republicans who joined about 2 dozen Democrats in a failed attempt to keep alive a spending bill amendment to prevent a ban on hemp products containing THC. The Senate ultimately passed the underlying appropriations package, including language championed by Senator Mitch McConnell, a Republican out of Kentucky, that industry stakeholders say would decimate the hemp market. A last-ditch attempt to strike those provisions of the bill led by Senator Rand Paul in Kentucky failed after a majority vote in favor of a motion to table his amendment. That was gut-wrenching. That means that they did it without debate. They didn't even give hemp, 330,000 Americans, hardworking Americans, $28 billion, all built from the ground up, the dignity of a conversation. But we all know that it went to the House. Before it went to the House, one of those Republicans who stood with Senator Rand Paul was Ted Cruz. He tweeted out, "I have long believed the regulation of hemp and marijuana products should rest with each individual state. Reasonable minds can disagree, and a blanket federal prohibition disempowers the voters in each of the 50 states." That is Ted Cruz speaking out against prohibition, y'all. A one-size-fits-all federal standard. Let's pull up his Cruz. Let's pull up the full tweet, actually. We don't have it in the marijuana moment story, but I think I want to hear directly from Ted. I have Senator Cruz. "I have long believed that the regulation of hemp and marijuana products should rest with each individual state. Reasonable minds can disagree, and a blanket federal prohibition disempowers the voters in each of these 50 states. A one-size-fits-all federal standard will undoubtedly create unintended consequences that harms consumers. Someone has learned from the past. There is a vital need to protect children by, at a minimum, requiring that purchasers be 21 and prohibiting synthetics and dangerous foreign imports marketed to kids. That's the approach Governor Abbott has taken in Texas, and I urge other states to follow Texas's example." I'm actually going to bring up one more thing. We're going to spin off of the marijuana moment story here because the rest of it is pretty much everything you've already heard about hemp getting banned federally. And I want to put out a note from the Texas Cannabis Collective, actually, because I think it's something important to remember. And I think Democrats would do well to pay attention this election year because there is a chance for the Republicans to make this their issue. And if they realize that their hemp markets in red states are actually significantly more healthy than state-run programs in blue states, and I am specifically saying state-run programs in blue states through limited licensing because it is so anti-Republican, right? Especially here in Texas. I think they really could make this their issue. Everyone should be listening, including Democrats. Signs that Texas Republicans, so this from the Texas Cannabis Collective, which I have to put a disclaimer, I am the Veteran Affairs Director for the Texas Cannabis Collective, so I might be a little biased, but signs that Texas Republicans will continue the fight against the hemp ban post-federal funding bill passage. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was not one of the 39 attorneys general who signed the letter to call on Congress to ban intoxicating hemp. Representative Dan Crenshaw tweeted out support of passing the Rand Paul amendment. Senator Ted Cruz votes in favor of Paul amendment, only other Republican. DSHS, TABC, and DPS are proceeding with Governor Abbott's executive order to regulate intoxicating hemp products despite threat of potential federal ban. And they say, do with this information what you will. So what does that mean, guys? I think it means that we could see the tides really turn on this conversation. Where Democrats have typically led in the cannabis conversation, they might find themselves backed into a corner if Republicans start to realize the demographic that actually makes up the hemp market. And I really appreciate the questions that you've asked today because I let's bring it back to the whole group because I'm really enjoying this roundtable conversation we've been having. But I appreciate so much the questions that you asked because I do think it brings home the illustration that on a large scale, mid-sized operators, mom and pops, and most folks in marijuana in those state-run blue states are exactly the same as the mom and pops, farmers, mid-scale, and MSO operators in hemp states. In fact, some of them in your blue states, in your state-run programs, they already are making a lot of money in hemp, and it's not just with bad product. They realize it's a viable market. If the Republicans, who are known as the party for innovation when it comes to businesses an opportunity instead of gross overregulation. That's what they're known for. I'm not giving you my assessment of anybody. That's why I'm the mediator, because I get to come in and bring you all of the information.
There we go.
But if they start to see that their markets are actually healthier, don't face the issues that limited licensing markets face, like break-ins, the insane taxation, the number of people who are having difficulties even just staying operational, I think people like Ted Cruz will make this their issue. And that could really create a lot of, it is a kitchen table issue. We had hundreds of thousands of constituents show up in Texas. They know that with the margins, with voting margins being the way they are right now, hundreds of thousands makes a huge difference. So I would encourage everybody to get out there, participate in the conversation in the year 2026. And then also, if you are a marijuana operator in a blue state, go visit a hemp market. Come out to Austin.
Yeah, come to a red state.
Come and see how it can be done. And I think you would be pleasantly surprised. It's not the same competitor that you're facing in your state. It's you. We are you guys. So, and you're all going to be at MJ Biz. So
no, we're not.
Come on. I mean, like hemp and cannabis, both hemp and marijuana are on the stage at MJ Biz. That means these are both legitimate markets. We have to stop saying that they're not regulated markets. They are regulated. And if they didn't age gate, that wasn't the industry's fault. That was the lawmakers not writing an age gate, which in Texas we've been asking for since 2018.
Well. Senator Cruz, my guy. I'm a big fan of Senator Cruz personally. You know, he is a patriot. He is a strict constitutionalist, and I've had a number of conversations with him over the years. And and he's always has maintained that, hey, you know what? I'm not personally a fan of cannabis, but if it's something that the people want and it's the will of the people, then I'm going to follow the Constitution and I'm gonna ride along with it. He's like, it's not my personal preference, but at the same time, I stand with the will of the people and abiding by the Constitution, and he is a strict constitutionalist, and so much props and respect to Senator Cruz.
I think he's framed the same problem that's before the Supreme Court right now, Jason.
Yep.
In the Cannabis provisions case.
He has. Yeah.
Because if we back up to when the overreach of the Commerce Clause got started, I'm hoping that we're at a point now in our history where we take a look at it and see, does this really make sense? Because the federal government was given certain powers, and they have been allowed to take commerce and run with it to the point where you wonder, is there any limitations on what the federal government can do under the Commerce Clause and Necessary and Proper Clause? And I'm not a big Ted Cruz fan, but I agree with him on, let's take a look at what powers we gave the federal government, and then everything else belongs to the states. The federal government should be getting out of the way as much as possible here. And I'd like to see not only this be thrown out into Congress to be talked about, which it's going to be, but have the court take it up and just say, you can no longer sustain your position about federal Commerce Clause power when you don't have a nationwide prohibition scheme anymore. That's gone. Okay. You've overreached. We've closed down the Commerce Clause extension in a number of areas. Lopez, Morrison, the Affordable Care Act, the Sebelius case. I talked about these. Now, can we go forward and take as much of the politics out as we can, and let's take a look at what the Constitution says. The problem I have with my party is that they got used to being on the receiving end of all this federal spending and the rationalization for it, and they fight like crazy to stop from having that pulled back, when in fact you take a look at what California did as an example. You can not find a better example of Democrats sticking their head up their butt, overtaxing, overregulating, now wondering, well, what's going on here? Well, you're not trying to help an industry. You're still nitpicking, overregulating. Get the hell out of the way. The hemp industry has now demonstrated to us we don't need all these layers of regulations and all these goddamn taxes. They just stifle an industry. People want this. They've been able to get it. They said no one's gotten sick. No one's died. Take a look at what we do in California. Hell, remember when they had to have a package was opaque because so you couldn't even see
exactly
walking out of a
the exit bags, Dale. The exit bags, like, Dale. Yes.
Shit.
Yep.
You've gone beyond the pale of common sense now. So can we get rid of our long-standing beliefs about the federal government's got to come in and save everything, and what should it really be doing? SNAP is something I think we want. Getting your hands in somebody's pocket for weed at the federal level, I think we're all done with that. Where's that going to be? I don't know. But I'm tired of these fights. Can we just sit down and honestly talk about this without partisan shit? And the answer is, well, probably not based upon history, but one can always hope, you know?
Well, you got to play to their interests, right? What are their interests? But I'm gonna pipe
we all
down
know what
I definitely want to.
We all know what the Democrats' interests are, but you know what I mean?
No, I'm talking about all of them. Their campaigns are their interests, guys.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, you know, that is a big thing, and that's why senators have a lot more leeway, because they're in office for 6 years. But members of the House of Representatives, you know, it's basically like as soon as the first year's done, you know what I mean? You're by the time you're finishing up your first year, it's already time to go back into campaign season for your technical second year, because you're constantly in election mode. And you know, and the main way to get a chairmanship on any of these committees is through two ways: one, seniority, and the second, through fundraising. So you're constantly a fundraiser throughout your whole term. That's really your job as being a fundraiser, as being a member of Congress, than it is actually doing anything else. So, you
know what's funny is the people I got the most phone calls from before the ban, which kind of cracks me up and speaks to we got to do better, is getting phone calls for campaign donations and getting phone calls from lobbyists right before the ban, like right before that you're behind the curve a little bit. Don't ask for $1 million. Everybody wants $1 million this week, and nobody has it. It's kind of making me laugh.
Oh man,
where's the accountability? You know, you give them this money and ask them, what have you got done? And they're standing there holding their virile member going, well, you know, we did it. No, you didn't get shit done. You just made this worse. And I'm just, you know, I said before, I'm the Groucho Marx model. I don't want to belong to any organization that would dare to have me as a member. I get kind of upset when you don't get shit done and you keep asking people for more money. It's like, yeah, well, okay, what are we getting done here? Well, give us some more money, we'll fix it. Yeah, fuck you. I heard that for a quarter of a century now. Hard to listen to it. And we actually get something done. And when business talks, and whether you like it or not, hemp industry has money. It has lobbyists now. And they are going to make a whole lot more headway than what they think all of us old hippies could do by trying to legalize weed. We have to get beyond these old pejorative thoughts and the emotional truths about weed and drugs and things like that. This is like alcohol coming to an end. You might not like it, but shit, can we think about this rationally and what it might look like, and then let the industry go and respond to problems as it starts to grow?
Fair enough. Well, that was fun. Shout out to Ted Cruz and also to your lovely wife, Heidi. Ted, hope you're having a great day out there in the great red state of Texas, because, you know, Texas is still red, Shaun. As blue as Austin wants to be, it's still a glorious red state. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
But
And we are back, you guys. We are back, Shaun, and we are going to roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. Nate is a lab owner, was a lab owner, and his lab was unjustly persecuted by the overreaching state of California and the DCC. And thank goodness some of those heads of the DCC are rolling now and retiring, and we'll see who they replace them with. And maybe Nate will get his license back. Who knows? You never know. Time will always tell. And maybe those people will be, maybe those people will be persecuted for unjustful attempts. But now Nate has been teaching cannabis everything that they need to know on his own website platform called Teaching Bud, and you can find him there. It is none other than Mr. Nate Winokur.
Howdy do, everybody. Hope all is well, and wanted to bring to you an article today from Cannabis Science and Technology, which titles Study shows Study shows low THC hemp beverages decrease alcohol consumptions as Senate hemp legislation looms. And so this is just from yesterday evening, and you know how everything's kind of going in that sense. Now, we have this whole idea, and I want to show what was possibly going to be another facet of this whole kind of story unfolding with regards to the federal hemp ban, as it's being called, and everything else that's circulating around it, which is, as everything goes forward, science, health, technology is on the other side, pushing the other way, and it's creating a hell of a hole. We'll see where everything ends up. But this article starts with More Better Limited, an organization that works with real-world data and public health research, recently conducted a national study that discovered low-dose hemp-derived infused beverages are linked to improved well-being, reduced alcohol use, and minimal impairment. In regard to a fiscal year 2026 agriculture FDA appropriations bill, and with the release of data from this study, has linked connection between low-dose hemp beverages and measurable public health benefits. More Data Limited is encouraging for lawmakers to look over the data before moving to vote for hemp language in the omnibus package that will be restricting the industry. The data shows that adults are using hemp beverages and responsibly to relax, reduce alcohol consumption, and feel better without high levels of intoxication, said Kevin Brost, CEO of More Better. Banning these products now would erase years of harm reduction progress and contradict the real-world evidence that the FDA and Congress claim to rely on. In the study, researchers analyzed data from 2,580 adult participants in over the course of 22 days, where they consumed one of 20 different hemp beverages that contained 1 to 10 milligrams of THC per serving. The dosing used in the study is commonly seen in the most commercial products that are currently available in this marketplace. That's to say that the generally agreed upon dose is 10 milligrams per dose. As mentioned in the press release, key findings from the study included: 1, well-being. WHO 5 scores increased from 42.93 at baseline to 52.61 at day 21, a 9.74 or 22.7% improvement, exceeding the minimally important difference threshold for clinical significance. For psychological distress, DASS results showed substantial reductions. I'll skip through all the boring numbers, but essentially showing an overall broad reduction in psychological distress. Alcohol use reduced by 12.7 points, and likelihood of heavy use dropped 38%. Intoxication and hangover. Participants were generally unlikely to report intoxication. Among all reports of feeling intoxicated, 98.3% described effects as barely noticed to manageable, and 95.8% reported no hangover symptoms the next day. Dose risk context. Average daily consumption corresponds to a very low predicted probability of negative events. While risk increased modestly with combined alcohol or cannabis use, infused beverage only use consistently showed the lowest risk profile. Health safety perception. 77% of participants rated hemp beverages as safer or much safer than alcohol. All of this is getting taken away. If you've read into the finer points of the bill, it does maintain 0.3% total THC, which is very possible for a type of beverage like what we're talking about. However, it also puts a 0.4 milligram cap on all products. And 0.4 milligrams won't be nearly enough to be able to ban, to build anything beyond this ban. We urge Congress to review the actual evidence before signing a provision that unintentionally undermines public health, small business innovation, and consumer choice, Provost added. More Better will continue to share data with regulators and lawmakers committed to smart policy over panic. On November 10th, 2025, the U.S. Hemp Roundtable published a press release reacting to new language from the Senate that would negatively affect the $28.4 billion hemp industry in the U.S. and affect 300,000 jobs for farmers and entrepreneurs. That's a crazy ass story, in my opinion, and something that definitely, in my also humble opinion, counterbalances a lot of what the public safety and health perceptions are that are out there and what seems to be impacting things. I'd also strongly agree that any subject that comes along with banning things should do so in a much more precise and much more well thought out manner, and simply slamming the door one way and then slamming it shut the other way is not the appropriate way to build out bills. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is High at 9 News, and back to you, Jason. Back to you, everyone.
Oh man, you guys, man, this is good news, I think, overall. But you know, if there's a total hemp ban, you know what I'm saying? Well, then what's going to happen? All these beverages, I think this is just more propaganda for the beverage companies because they're really trying to capture their market share. But I do think anything that's helping people to consume less alcohol overall is good. So I don't want to poo-poo it too much, but I do think this is kind of a little propaganda-ish, but it's okay.
That's what we got to stop doing. If the beverage, guys, if this is science and this is true, why would we? I want to see categories stop shooting each other in the face because it doesn't help you. It doesn't help all of us.
Well, Shaun,
it just sounds like low dose THC. So if you take it out of the beverage, it means low dose THC can help you in ways that alcohol never will.
This is the thing.
That's the gist of it. Like,
well, Shaun,
I get that.
I have a fundamental problem with these things. I have a fundamental problem with the beverages. No, I have a fundamental problem with the beverages is because THC and cannabis and whatnot is not water soluble. And so none of these companies actually make, like, you know, they have to add in so many different additives and different things. And I just think the beverage market is just dumb.
Just to throw it out there, Jason, you would be able to solubilize it with a little bit of ethanol, and you would be able to keep for these 10 milligram doses. And considering the average size of a beverage,
just a little bit of ethanol.
Keep it in the
just a little bit of ethanol. You know, I mean, never hurt anybody.
I guarantee you'll enjoy it more than the O'Douls, bro.
No one ever. That much said, you know, ethanol never hurt anybody.
Low enough alcohol content to be considered a non-alcoholic beverage, and it would still be a sufficient carrier and vehicle to take a relatively natural cannabis extract, certainly not one stripped down, and be able to use it to introduce into the beverage. In fact, that's a common carrier, I would say, ethanol, that most people don't consider to be used, and they should. Scientifically, it works. Legally, it works, in my opinion. You know, prove me wrong, bro.
The other thing,
go ahead, Shaun.
It doesn't help. Also, whether you like it or not, if you're a savvy
it's just my opinion
person,
yeah,
it's your opinion, but it also ignores the most trending beverage category across all categories.
God.
And I'm not talking about cannabis. I'm not talking about
that's such a skewed statement. But
I'm talking about beverages overall, much bigger category, and this one is it.
I'm not. Come on. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like when they say, oh, this is the smallest population of the market, but it's also the fastest growing segment of the market. It's like, come on, you guys. You guys are talking out of your ass on both sides. You know what I'm saying? It's total ridiculousness.
Jason, you can look at the numbers. It is the fastest growing segment.
I know, that's my whole point. I understand that, okay? But at the same time, since it's the smallest part, of course it's going to seem like it's the fastest growing, because that's just what it is. You have the most growth to catch up to everything else. It's an asinine statement.
Feel comfortable with the product they are. Instead of combustion or vapes, if they don't already combust or vape, if they don't smoke or vape, they want to drink. It will have a normalization curve that is much bigger than combustible or vape products. It'll much like edibles. Like those are just that's cool, and that's cool for you. You just can't ignore it. And then if you want to be mad, be mad.
I'm not
trying
mad at all.
to get a beverage carve out. Instead, I want to see the categories stop fighting with each other. We got to protect the bevs. We got to protect the flower. We got to, come on. I don't like this.
It's such a kumbaya, Shaun.
I love
what we're dealing with here is an emotional truth on Mr. Beck.
Stop it. I'm not emotional.
You're presenting with facts, and what does he do? His butt puckers up and he comes right back. It's a small,
It's a skewed factor, and you know it.
There are so many people that believe so many things about this plant, okay? And when you talk to people who don't know shit about it, they want to be educated. If you run into somebody who has emotional beliefs about it, it's just very difficult to move forward. I mean, Nate, you understand this as someone who's into science. If you take a look at the science of something and you run up against somebody who doesn't believe it's true, there's only so far you can go with them before you have to throw them off a cliff and get them out of your way. Because this industry is demonstrating in real time in people's buying tendencies that they want this to be legalized. Get the hell out of the way. And before the 1950s, nobody had any problem understanding what hemp was. You made rope out of it. You made sails and canvas and tents and shit of it. Nobody was smoking hemp because it was worse than ratchet. Okay, we started defining this thing and it went all over the damn place. We need to back up to Linnaeus and say this is cannabis sativa L. Okay, some have more cannabinoids than others. Stop all this stuff and let's sit down and honestly talk about this. Recognize people's emotional beliefs about this and see if we can get beyond that with some science. That's where we've been trying to go for the longest time. And the people inside these bureaucracies don't want science. They want to tell you, this is what I believe. We're presumed to be true. You can't stop us. And it's not something that I did when I was in chemistry lab. You're like, oh, what are your results? Okay, here it is. What does that mean? Well, let's talk about what it means in a scientific sense. Not that, well, your grandma's coming in and tell you can't possibly be right because I don't believe it. Get grandma out of the fucking lab. Let's talk about this like we're reasonable, rational, educated people. Okay? Get our emotional beliefs and truths as much as possible out of the way. Can we figure this out? It's not that complicated, but we just keep running around in circles chasing our tail. And you look at the science of this and it's like, what's the big deal? It never killed anybody, doesn't cause cancer. The roads aren't blood red. Why is the sky still falling if we legalize this stuff? I've been pulling my hair out for a quarter of a century about this. Like,
I'm just glad you still have some hair, Dale. I'm glad you still have some hair on that head. Yeah.
It's getting lighter, man. I'm getting old, dude.
Yeah. Well, these beverages, it's more hype, but I'm not mad at the beverages. I don't understand what you guys think. I think that I'm mad at the beverages. I just think it's kind of dumb. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. You know what I mean? And people, if they want to consume beverages, they can do that. What's that, Shaun?
You said you hate them. So
I do. I think they're dumb because they always try to prop themselves up like they're the next best thing and like they're doing so much, but they're actually doing so little. And then they reword this wording to make it sound like, oh, they're just like the God's gift to cannabis inventions of delivery systems, and it's just not the case.
Now, I do agree with you, Jason, in that they're not formulated what I would consider to be properly.
They're not,
and I don't think in their current state. It is the end-all, be-all of what cannabis beverages could be, should be. The reality is, though, that cannabis is amazing, and there are fairly utilizable, easy-to-use, generally agreeable ways that you could take cannabis and infuse it into almost any ingredient in the grocery store. And, as somebody who really likes this plant, I think that would be a really neat freedom to have.
You're right. And they can infuse it into anything in the grocery store. I mean, come on. We even saw CBD toilet paper before. Come on, Nate. Do it with anything.
Not everybody's a chef, and so it isn't in the hands of the everyman. But these are, not complex products to have out there, and the fact that people, it seems, are so close to being able to have this, especially in light of other major deals that are out there for businesses on the horizons and stuff like that. It seems like the ban of these beverages really doesn't fit into the same level of concern as having a cannabis versus hemp and regulated versus unregulated. This really does seem to be deserving of its own approach, and I think all your correspondents would agree with that.
Interesting.
As long as they don't shoot all the other categories. Like, we don't want people lobbying and carving out for themselves. Everybody.
Well, there's going to be a lot of carving out coming up, Shaun, because we're about to be approaching Thanksgiving pretty soon. There's going to be a lot of carve outs coming up. Just saying.
Not a fan of carve outs.
Just saying. Well, I have one final story to end the show on with you guys, and we've had a lot of contentious stories throughout the day, but I think this is something. I think we're going to end the show on some good news today. You guys ready for this? All right. Okay. I see Dale just, we'll see. Fair enough. All right. Well, the New Jersey Senate president seeks to revamp the cannabis law, you guys. That's right. New Jersey's cannabis industry would see a host of changes under a new bill from Senate President Nicholas Schafer. The measure would allow some medical marijuana dispensaries to sell adult use cannabis without getting the okay from local leaders, loosen ethics requirements for state cannabis regulators, and strip the governor of the power to name the chair of the state panel that regulates the industry. Schafer, a Democrat from Union, has proposed some of this before in a bill he introduced in January that never advanced in the Senate. Schafer, who is a major supporter of legalized cannabis, did not return a request for comment from the new bill, and one of the major changes in the new measure introduced last week would allow medical marijuana dispensaries to apply for a license to sell adult use cannabis without municipal approval. The bill would allow this even in towns that have banned adult use dispensaries. When New Jersey legalized cannabis, it allowed towns to opt out of the adult use cannabis industry, and about 70% of them did. Some limit sales to medical cannabis only, and the number of people enrolled in the state's medical marijuana program has dwindled since cannabis became more readily available for people older 21 years of age. Adult use users can purchase most cannabis products available at medical dispensaries, which was not the case when the industry launched more than 3 years ago. And the bill also seeks to change oversight rules for the 5-member Cannabis Regulatory Commission by loosening restrictions on commissioners' political activity and modifying rules that regulate when they can speak to people who have applications before the panel. The measure would allow the commission members and employees to attend political events with written notice by a member or the executive director, and commission members are already permitted to hold public office, but the bill has a provision explicitly allowing them to campaign for office and fundraise for those campaigns. Current law bars commission members from meeting with anyone who has applications or other matters before the panel except at the agency's offices, and the bill would end that ban and allow commissioners and employees of the agency to meet with people who have businesses before the agency at any location designated by the commission. While all those meetings would be required to be logged, they would not be subject to the state's public meeting law unless they are attended by more than one person on the commission. Joshua Bachner, a cannabis attorney at Middleburn Barnett in Roseland, said this invites malfeasance. Well, of course you're a naysayer. You're an attorney that wants to get paid from doing all this extraness. In a quote, "I don't see how this is good at all for anyone," Bachner said. "This is opening up the floodgates for misconduct." And Bachner also noted a provision of the bill would allow state employees and their family members to work in the cannabis industry as long as state ethics officials or the New Jersey Supreme Court say it wouldn't create a conflict of interest or the reasonable risk of the public perception of one. In 2023, New Jersey Supreme Court Chief Justice Stuart Rabner barred state courts employees from taking any jobs in the medical or adult use cannabis industry, and the bill would also increase commissioners' salaries from $125,000 to $160,000, and the chair's salary from $141,000 to $156,000. The measure comes in the waning days of the current legislative session, and Governor Phil Murphy's administration, and Murphy, who leaves office on January 20th, campaigned in his first term on legalizing adult use cannabis, and voters approved legalizing via a ballot question at the first adult use dispensaries launched back in April of 2022. Well, you guys, New Jersey, you guys just might get some little reform, and I welcome this. I think this is a great idea, and you know what? I think it is going to pass. You know why? Because it raises the commissioners' salaries. It's going to pass just because of that, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, it's about time they get these local jurisdictions out of the way.
Exactly, right?
They screw things up. I mean, having to go back and do the entire process to go from medical to now adult use. It's just an extra mile that doesn't help anybody. And we continue to be looked at like meeting with us as you're meeting with some cartel in, Central America. Oh, we can't have you talking to these folks. Why not? Citizens United said money is the same as speech. And if people are going to give you money, why are we carved out as some, pariahs, or we got leprosy or something? It's nonsense. And I think our earlier discussions about hemp now having money, they're going to play that we're a business that's up and running. We got money. You guys are going to take away our livelihood. We're coming at you every way we can. Most places have ad hoc rules. If you have more than one city council or supervisor together, you have ad hoc rules that come in. There, if Information Act stuff comes up. To meet one, I've met with city council and supervisors one-on-one many times.
Exactly.
Talked about a lot of stuff. And, it's like, I'm trying to lobby you. I'm telling you, I want you to do something for me. Here's why. Why is that a problem? I don't understand that. What are they afraid of?
I agree. I agree with you, Dale. I'm totally with you on this. I think this is a very commonsensical bill, and it should get pushed. But why would this lawyer be saying that it's going to cause all this malfeasance?
I could understand if he was concerned because of like a level of government nepotism, maybe, working. I mean, it happens all the time in government contracts. You see it with Department of Defense, where you got DOD officials that transition to Lockheed.
New Jersey is almost as corrupt as California.
I mean, that's why I was like, honey.
I know it's so ironic. It's exactly.
Yeah. I get what but not. I don't get it at all.
We're into making money, folks. If you don't get this, let me tell you, we're into
That's right.
My time and my experience is my bread and butter. Hire me, you're my client.
Exactly.
What do I need to do? I'll tell you what you pay me to say. Okay. And I look at attorneys as, basically we're all board certified shysters. What do you need me to do? As long as you're paying me, I'm on board with you.
Yep.
To get above that, let's take a look at this from the human perspective, because lawyers, get mixed up in things that aren't really human beings. Human beings are involved here, and they're not being treated well. And they found out that, hey, harm reduction works if I use weed. Great. You're not using crank, right? That's a good thing. And we get to places where we're looking at the real human beings here, and not just some attorney hired to argue some bullshit argument before some court. Politicians for their own agendas. How can we break through that and get some honest discussions? And taking away some of the power to trip you up locally, that's the de facto problem I talked about earlier. Yeah, there's a way to do stuff. Realities are that inside bureaucracies, they don't want things to change because they're very comfortable the way they are. You get this pushback. I'm in favor of pulling their pants down. Okay? You're against this? Why? We're all looking, you ain't got your knickers on no more, dude. Tell us why. Who's paying you to do this? Embarrass the shit out of them. I'm tired of talking to people anymore. If you're going to just talk to them and hold hands and go to lunch and stuff, you ain't going to get shit done. You got to smack some people in the mouth.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I am right now. I'm tired of talking. You guys are disrupting this. People are being hurt. Why? It's like, why would you do this to stuff? Human beings. when it's not that difficult to figure out what you're doing. It's just, I'm going to shut up because I'm cranky today. I'm tired of talking about politicians who have their head all wrapped.
Well, backhands for the win, Dale. Backhands for the win. Anything?
This is a good story. This was a good story.
I told you. It was a good story. Yeah, I told you we're going to end on a good story today. Look at that. A happy story. Any final thoughts on this, Nate, before we close out? All right. Fair enough.
No, my brother. Good story.
What's that, Shaun? What was that?
Nate's thinking about moving up to Texas and getting into hemp now.
No, you've opened up my eyes on a good number of things, because even as we discussed this story, and so it's probably obvious that I've been distracted, I've been creating like this sort of spectrum of cannabis doing it right versus wrong in regards to regulated. And, based on your description, Shaun, it certainly seems like ethical self-regulated is like the utopia end of the spectrum right there. And I that just speaks to the awesomeness of humans and everything else Nate, that goes with it. Just the notion people could do it right.
Nate, that's where we were. That's where we were prior to all of this regulation and legalization. That's where we were at.
What I'm realizing in terms of even listening to this is I detect more of a spectrum. I'm in a bit of an issue in California right here, where things are being decided on fly by night, and people's livelihoods are literally being affected by the thousands, and it's just ridiculous to have witnessed all of that. I've seen people in companies like Clade 9 exodus from California and go to the New Jersey market. Just funny enough, because in the spectrum that I'm now, kind of running my mind just sort of through, in the spectrum, New Jersey does it in so many other ways better than California does. I'll give you a quick example. In California, you have to have all of your vape products already loaded into the hardware in order to have them tested in their hardware and their finished packaging to the nth degree before you're actually allowed to distribute that product. In New Jersey, you're allowed to just demonstrate that your hardware is clean, that your packaging is clean, and that this big jar of material that's going to go into these thousands of vapes is also clean, and the government will give its stamp of approval and send you off. This means that in California, there's elements of what can potentially go wrong that you're not even allowed to examine until the furthest degree. What if there happens to be some contamination in your cartridge fillers? You're literally given no opportunity to catch that until it's too late, and you've made thousands of products that each costs the manufacturer easily $12 to have manufactured. I mean, you're, Oz, right? You know this. So with how this stuff gets put together and how people have just said, oh, in California, I just lost 40 grand because the way regulations are built is completely against me and my interests. That's a reality for me on one end of the spectrum of like, oh, wow, like that was, not how this should have been done or rolled out. On the other side, I'm hearing about this beauty of self-regulated industry. So, that is in certain microcosms, it sounds like in the country, such as some areas in Texas and things like that. And then I know of stuff in between where it's kind of being done right. And if anything, it's just kind of personally over the course of the last 2 hours of the show been blowing my mind a little bit, maybe even reshaping my overall perspective of how the different shades of gray of this industry and how it's been approached and what that's sort of materialized as, what that looks like. And I can't really speak further on that because this is such a novel concept to me that I'm just sort of sitting here soaking it in. Sorry to talk so much, though.
Nate,
what were you saying, bro?
Nate. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Shaun.
You've been baptized.
Well, I will say this.
I've seen the light.
I will say this, Nate. If you are going to make a trip to Texas, let me know. You're probably going to go to Austin. You know the best part about being in Austin, Nate? You're surrounded by Texas.
No, I think I've heard you say that before.
Yes, I have.
You guys,
it's my favorite.
You guys are pretty wild about that.
It's my favorite Texas
joke. It does seem like a very
joke.
Nice place to visit.
It's
driven
my
across the
favorite.
U.S., but missed that so far.
Come out. You should come out. We have consumption lounges, cafes, THC on tap, flower, and we don't have break-ins. We don't have overregulation. And
that's because you guys have open carry. That's why.
Part of it too. You don't have those problems because you'll get shot.
Exactly.
But,
FAFO.
I I really just want to encourage everyone who's in California, please come out here, because the number one thing they tell me every time they come out is this is the first time I've tasted a little bit of what it could be to have a free and open market. And it just helps you to realize, I think there's a little bit of sunk cost fallacy and a little Stockholm syndrome that we need to kind of wake up from this year.
Well, and on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.